Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 9th online field of Barcelona Tech City. It's a format that is part of our online program. Nowadays, everyone is talking about innovation. We associate entrepreneurship more with the startups, but we know that large corporations can also do it. And today we have the pleasure to have with us Nick de Blasio. Thank you, Nick, to stay here. Nick is head of InGenius of Nestlé. As you know, Nestlé is one of the biggest companies in the world that some years ago has decided to establish its IT hub here in Barcelona around 4 or 5 years ago. And to start, we have two questions for you, Nick. The first one is, could employees be great innovators? And then the second one is, how do you do it in InGenius? So all yours, Nick. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thanks, Shana. Hello, everyone. So do I believe that employees can be great innovators, and how do we do InGenius? So the answer is yes, simply. I fell in love with this hypothesis, actually, 8 years ago, almost now, since when we started. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to that. But that was the question we asked ourselves. Could our employees be great innovators? And conclusion is yes, but they must have the right support, both in technology and in process and also in culture, to help them to become great innovators. So absolutely happy to now tell that story and then talk through and answer the second half of your question more so through the presentation. It'll be great to do that and then interact with the audience as well. So. Here we go. I'll share my screen. Do you see that's okay?
Let me see. Not yet. Maybe now. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So, so actually, we're going to talk about intrapreneurship, but also, given the audience we have here, actually, we're going to also talk about our new supplier innovation program that we're launching as well, and hopefully that also drive some interest, and we can also discuss some of that in the questions coming through a bit later. But again, thank you very much for inviting me to talk today. But very first, a little bit about myself. So I'm Nick de Blasio, as you know. I'm what's called a product group manager. So I'm part of the IT organization Nestlé. Based here in Nestlé headquarters, and my history is professionally has always been very much around the fast-moving consumer goods companies. I worked in several places around the world, always in technology-based roles, other than in the last 7-8 years with InGenius, where yes, we started in technology, but we also evolved into product, food and beverage products, and service innovation as well. And actually also have a team based in Barcelona and in Switzerland. And also we are part of a bigger group which has innovation hubs in both San Francisco, Tel Aviv, and Mexico as well. So very quickly, we're going to run through what is InGenius, what's our origin story, with also where we are now 7-8 years later, and then finally, what's next. So I think it was more interesting to play through a video, what we do, and just checking you can hear that okay. Yep.
Have you got an idea which can make a difference? Are you looking for inspiration to take your work to the next level? We are here to help you make it a reality. Post your solution to Nestlé's Innovation Challenges and show everyone how you plan to execute it. If your idea is among the top ones, our expert team of innovation managers and UX designers will partner with you to build an agile startup team.
Together, we'll validate a problem, design a solution, prototype and test with real users, and only in a matter of weeks.
This team is incredible. They supported us through the whole process.
They really helped
pitch your idea to top executives. That's right, top ones. And hopefully receive funding so your project can be piloted and scaled. Since 2014, over 60,000 employees from our 50 markets have shared 6,000 new ideas on our platform. Thanks to your ideas, the support of your peers, and the InGenius team, the company has delivered solutions to address challenges around the globe, such as consumer tracking of Nespresso parcels, virtual reality experience for onboarding our newcomers, local Korean flavored Kit Kats, delivering our products with zero packaging using innovative bulk dispensers, and many more.
Believe in your ideas, don't be afraid to speak up. Always listen to the feedback of others. Be focused on what matters. Work hard.
Practice, practice, practice.
Be bold. Just put it on Genius. You have nothing to lose. Share your idea.
So, are you ready to unleash your inner genius?
Okay. So hopefully that gives you more of an idea of what we do, but then let's get a bit more into detail. So what is InGenius today? Of course, we evolved over the last 8 years. And here it's stated really clearly, right? So our vision is to grow and accelerate business innovation by connecting and empowering our employees globally. And our mission is to unleash the employee creativity to make Nestlé the best it can be. Now, we're evolving to talk about not just connecting, empowering our employees globally, but by connecting and empowering innovators globally. And you see very much in what's trending is from corporates right now. We talk about entrepreneurship is about venture building. So that's a combination of internal employees, entrepreneurs, with external entrepreneurs to more rapidly bring innovations to life. And that's where we're going as well. I'll explain further later. But you see, ultimately there, we have a set of innovation services where we really help Nestlé community, and that's whether it's a Nestlé market like Nestlé España, or a business like Nestlé Health Science, right up to our functions, which are like the supply chain and marketing. These are the global responsibles here in headquarters, or even at now we're doing it at zone level. So we have the Americas or EMENA, or wanting to run their version of bringing entrepreneurship to life in their particular challenges that they want to address, and leveraging my team, InGenius, and the broader team which I belong to, called IT Innovation, to actually make that happen. But really, I'll give you a bit of context, because everyone, depending on where you come from, knows Nestlé from a particular angle. So I'll just give you some high-level stats, and some of these numbers may be a little bit old, but still very relevant. So we're over 150 years old. We have well over 2,000 brands. Maybe from this picture, hopefully you recognize already. We are the largest food and beverage company in the world, and give or take on the day, roughly the 22nd largest company in the world as well. We have over 400 factories, making 127,000 different products, stock-keeping units, served out to more than 2,000 warehouses, and that's even changing now as we're talking about much smaller we call fulfillment centers to help manage the huge increase, of course, in e-commerce, not just in COVID times. Now we were already going that way, but of course, COVID, like most companies like ours, forced an acceleration in those investments. And we're serving to about 6.5 million customers. Those are the big retailers. Of course, you talk about Nespresso consumers. I heard a number of like 30 million consumers globally the other day. So all very, very big numbers. But what's really even more impressive personally is, that we sell over 1 billion products a day. That's what's out there, what's being consumed. And it's just to get your head around the scale of all of that. But of course, we do have over 300,000 employees, all of which are rooted in all aspects of what I just showed you, and across the whole value chain of deciding not just the kind of products that we want to put out there to our consumers based on where the trends are, what's interest, and also where Nestlé sits in terms of our values and where we want to position ourselves, but then also right all the way through to you receiving your good in the mail, mostly nowadays, or in that retail experience you get in retail. So there's a lot of people involved across a very complicated value chain that we're talking about. And also the way we're structured. So yes, you get a sense of that scale. How do we bring that to life? And we're different to some of the other companies like Procter & Gamble, that we're actually very decentralized. And so that complexity is managed in many different ways, and depending on which part of the business or of operations you're part of. But fundamentally as well, you see that we're very consumer focused, and then we push out a lot of new products and service innovations, and increasingly so. I mean, this year, I'm hearing incredible numbers of certain markets, and how in the hundreds of new product innovations that were released this year alone. And all that fundamentally then is say, well, to keep such a, I'm going to say, a complicated structure going and being able to be still relevant to our consumers, innovation is key, and not just in the consumer facing what you see when you go to the stores, but actually across everything that we do and how we do it. So what you see here is the very first picture of InGenius, right? So now you've seen a nice funky video just now, but 8 years ago, this picture was where we started. And it's always good to go back and keep this in mind. And I'm sure for those of you on the call, as as entrepreneurs yourself, and thinking back, well, where did you start from? And it's always good to reflect, see where you are now, and then help you on one side to recognize your achievements, to give you the motivation to go forward, but then also recognize, well, if that's how far I've come, then how much further can I still go, right? And project yourself forward, and that's really super important as well. And the key elements I just want to show you of this, and it's actually my co-founder that had put this together, and was trying to figure out how to bring this to life. That's when I came into the picture, and over a coffee, he said, this is what I've come up with. What do you think? And I got super excited about it. And I'll give you some of the elements that I got excited about and explain why. So really, InGenius, before it was called InGenius, here you see we call this the road to anchored agility. And it's really, again, addressing that complexity we talked about a moment ago, and saying, okay, well, to still deliver an innovation, we have to be as agile as possible across the whole organization. So in this road to anchored agility, let's ask the question ourselves, can our employees be great innovators, right? Which I answered a bit earlier, but now I'm going to show you how we actually did that. And you see here, we talk about ideation, but we talk about here our employees who are Imagineers. And for those of you familiar with Disney, we talk about Imagineers and not engineers. And we're saying they are Imagineering the solutions to make the company better. And they do this collectively, do it together. And then this is also what's quite different about InGenius compared to some other programs out there on entrepreneurship, is that actually we have an open platform internally where those ideas are shared against certain challenges. If your ideas meet the basic criteria, then they get moved to the next stage. And of course, we can't take every idea through, but you see that we actually funnel down those ideas to a small number, which then we take into the concept phase. But we actually bring in end users. So it could be consumers, it could be factory personnel, it could be our truck drivers, whoever the end users of those solutions are, get invited to join the party, join this virtual startup team that we put together, starting with the idea owner, who's kind of the de facto CEO of our startup. And then we give the additional support to be able to bring that idea to life via a validated concept. And we also there bring in our case, our markets, because we've got to test these solutions somewhere. So in the Nestlé markets, typically where that's done. And again, within the market, that could be a factory or could be a particular warehouse or multiple warehouses, and suppliers. And this is where typically we really went more for the bigger suppliers that we use in, certainly in this case, in the digital space where we first started, but we've evolved beyond digital as well. But, you know, the likes of the Microsofts and the IBMs and so on, these were our initial supply base that jumped on board and said, okay, we can help you to bring these concepts to life and prototype and test very quickly. But the point is, you see, we've gone from a horse and cart to now we've given a boost to the startup team. We've given them the additional resources. We've given them the expertise to advance quickly on the idea and to validate the concept. And we put them on a bus and people can hop on and off, right? Expertise, you don't need all the way through. You need some expertise along your journey. Again, equally, I'm sure you can associate on your side if you have your own startup as well. And of course, here we have this Dragon's Den. So Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, these kind of big popular TV programs, or in your case, where you've gone into investor rounds, maybe in that Tech City. It's a filmed event. It is genuine. It's not pre-scripted. We actually teach you along this journey, not just to bring your concept to life and have it validated, but then you take all those learnings about your solution and we help you wrap that up into a pitch for you to deliver yourself in front of a bunch of executives. And in your 25, 30 minutes of glory, you hope to walk away with sponsorship. That's, you know, one of those executives says, I'm fully endorsing this solution. I'm on it. I will be your sponsor. But also, of course, depending on the situation, they may also have to, you know, asking for money, of course, right? So typically they always go there and say, I am Nicky Blasio. I'm here today to ask for 50,000 Swiss francs for my solution, InGenius, Nestlé's global employee innovation program, and yada, 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 right? And so we help them do all of that in a 5-minute pitch and everything, again, you're familiar with, but within a context of Nestlé. And we can also talk about how this is different from maybe what you experience on the outside, because being an intrapreneur is, in my eyes, no less than being an entrepreneur. There are certainly big differences. There are different risks, of course, there are different financial rewards. But also there's things that you must know and be able to do inside a big corporate, especially one as big and as complicated as ours, to succeed, that you have more options on the outside as an entrepreneur, going and touting to multiple investors. So I'll give you a bit more flavor of that. Hopefully it'll come through the presentation. We can maybe address in some questions later. But if you do get your money, you do get your sponsorship, we will help you bring that concept to life. We build it together with you, and we help to go and test it in a real life situation, maybe let's say with 500 users or consumers. And based on what we assess would be for this minimum viable product, the success criteria, we measure, monitor that over the period of the pilot, maybe 3 months, 6 months or more, come back, share those learnings, and then say, this is our recommendation for going forward, which could be kill it, invest, or pivot. Okay, so again, I think you can see the similarities on the outside. And of course, if then they choose to go forward with the project, taking any one of the latter two options, then we rocket up, accelerate down the road, and we press the big button, and there goes the rocket of implementing the solution globally. So that's high level what this, what InGenius was when we began, and actually fundamentally at the core, those are still the key elements we have today. But projecting ahead now, 7 years later, that beautiful diagram, of course, has evolved to something a lot more corporate in what you see here, see our picture here, but the elements to really, I would like to point out, we talk about the employee challenge. So now we talk about, yes, collecting ideas, but we don't have an open box typically. We do have a challenge that's set out to those employees based on our corporate priorities. And because then that way you see the executives who've got to sponsor and finance these projects, they are actually looking out to address the priorities that they have set out strategically for the next 18 months, 3 years plus, right? So aligning what they're looking for with, okay, the ideas that get generated, that's the best way you can make something successful. We run these ideation challenges now. They're only for about 4 weeks. We give a 2-week kind of precursor. Everyone, this is coming. This is what the challenge is about. Get yourselves ready. Maybe mobilize the people in your factory, in your market, in your office. Start brainstorming and get ready to share your idea here on our platform, where you have 4 weeks to not just post it, but then you've got to collaborate with people outside of your group as well. You collaborate with people that maybe are completely on the side of the world. And that collaboration is very key. Again, we're so big, it doesn't necessarily mean that the problems that we face in one part of the world haven't already been resolved in another way somewhere else. And so even just firstly having exposing your idea that way, just like when, again, entrepreneurs on the outside, they go and talk to trusted colleagues, or they go on to customers and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. What do you think about my idea? It's the same thing here. We do across a scale of what is now more than 60,000 employees that we have registered on our platform. And then we have this expert panel. That's that bus stop that you saw. That's when we say the funneling of, okay, we got over 150 ideas for this challenge in the last 4 weeks. How do we now move that down to only the 3 to 5 that we can truly invest in this next stage of bringing those concepts to life? And then through the atypical validating for those ideas that have made it through, of course, we've got to take the step back and say, well, they say they're solving this problem. Can we just validate that the problem, that problem really exists, that they say it is, and it exists at a scale that makes sense to resolve? And then, of course, we use that to then feed into validating the solution as well. And in the process of doing that, of course, we are prototyping and validating several times over, but then we also do this with, at the same time, scouting for technology partners. Again, that's also where potentially people in this call could be involved. And also looking at the pilot plan. What does that look like, right? If we're going to now bring this to life, how long will it actually take us? Who's the partners that we're going to do this with? What are the watch outs, the risks, and how we're going to address those? And of course, all tied to then managing that scope of what that minimum viable product should look like. And of course, then we have that big board, we call the boardroom event, that dragon's den that you saw in the original picture, where typically they would, before COVID, fly over to Vevey. We would give them a 1 week on-site pitch training and negotiation training. And we help them to package everything that they've learned over the previous 7 weeks, because that's only an 8-week incubation period. So only over the 7 weeks of everything they've learned along the way, whilst, by the way, they still be doing their day job, right? So this has been something on top of their day job, where we have ourselves co-led with them. That's where my team steps in and works with them, and we bring in these extra experts. So we've managed to the amount of effort across a small but a really passionate group to bring this to life. But then they're the ones who then have got to bring it together and deliver the winning pitch and secure the right funding and sponsorship. And if they do, then my team, with whoever we've identified in the company, the way we're going to pilot the solution, will work together to bring that to life. Of course, in the case of digital solutions, where I'm part of that organization, we do have those capabilities. Where we do not have those capabilities, we will seek them from primarily. We look first internally. Of course, we have a lot of great scientists and researchers and marketers and so on. So depending on, is it product innovation, a service innovation, or technology innovation, we will look for partnerships, internal and or external, to then bring that minimum viable product to life and try it out within the scope of the Nestlé context that we want to try out with. And of course, you see there, we'll come back after 3 or 6 months, depending on what the pilot duration is, to then say, that's what we did. it worked, or it didn't work, and this is why it didn't work, and this is our proposal, what to do next. The numbers, you saw 6,000 ideas were posted in the video. Actually, now we've, at the end of last year, we clocked over 7,000 ideas, and we connected over 65,000 employees, of which then we had these 35 different investor rounds. I'm saying plus because we have so much of smaller, we have so much also bigger, and it's become so many that it's becoming hard to keep a track of, to be honest. But they're all very memorable, and they are all coming now increasingly not just what we do headquarters, but we've been growing a lot more our base at the roots level in the markets themselves, or in certain functions like R&D, where we've actually had them go to the their own executive steering group and be able to do those pitches as well. And out of all the solutions we have, if I look at globally, plus what's happening at the market, or again, like in the likes of R&D units, we have generated over 80 minimum viable products. And I know we can always debate about what's a minimum viable product. In our sense, it's kind of the first generation of a workable solution that's out there in the field, actually generating the expected minimum value that, you know, to solve that problem. The maturity of that solution, of course, can be across a whole spectrum. But if we say it's got to be able to be used by 500 users, and when they do this, this is actually really meant to happen, then that's what for us counts as justified. Of course, it is a stripped down, feature bare solution, whatever that may be, but it does give us a good sense of, do we now want to step in and put much bigger money to potentially to make it an industrialized solution that's out there. I've also expanded in terms of the services we provide. So initially you saw we were just InGenius Pure, which was the whole end-to-end accelerator program focused around digital and with headquarters sponsorship. But then I saw there's a lot of interest from our markets and even just some product teams. Now, product teams in the case of digital product teams, but also again in our R&D units, for example, or across in manufacturing and other parts of operations, who've basically said it like in the markets, listen, we really want to, we like the crowdsourcing piece. We like but we don't want to just focus around digital. We really want to focus around what could be anything in the market. So new business models, new product innovations. And of course, the executives have got to be our own executives, our leadership, our CEO in our market, in Spain, for example, etc. So can you help us to bring intrapreneurship at a more local level? And that's therefore a service that we put together. And then the last one, which is smaller still, but being hugely popular this year, about crowdsourcing your innovations. So this is saying, I have a problem. I really want to tap the power of the crowd to see what ideas could come out in Nestlé, and I want to be a lot more autonomous. I know what I'm looking for. Help me to get there. Help me to leverage all the best practice that you have, and that huge employee base that you have and is growing. Help me tap into that. Those are the three key services which I have, all underpinned by a technology ecosystem. I'll show in a second. A way of working, a process I showed you earlier, and then you see that really big crowd of employees, which are tied over 60,000 to date. You can today go to ingenious.nestlé.com and already see the kind of challenges that we've been working on. And this is a custom portal that we've developed, which actually behind the scenes integrates into several other different platforms internally at Nestlé. So the primary thing you can see, the challenges that we've chosen to make public to let you be aware of what we're working on, and you already get a sense of the diversity of what we're doing beyond climate change, sustainability in beverages, in our coffee type business and so on, but also more at the local level as well. So you get a real flavor of that. we've integrated with an internal, it's actually Facebook's internal social media platform for enterprise, whereby for us, you see, it's not just about the idea, it's always, as you get on the other side, it's about the team that you form around the idea that you want to bring to life. And also throughout the process, not simply the beginning of the life of your, I'm going to say your initiative, your idea itself, but right the way through. So that social collaboration for us has been, we've amplified that. So it's not just about telling everyone, hey, it's a challenge when you submit your idea, but we actually tell them, hey, you don't have to necessarily submit an idea. You may just want to share your expertise and collaborate, or share your network, so that we can bring this idea to life and validate it quicker and faster, and actually at a greater level of validation than what we would normally do, versus I have a great idea and I'm going to email Joanna and then she's going to email someone else, and so on and so forth, right? So how do we do that in a much more clever way today? And then finally, you see at the top right, really all these, the videos of the boardroom events themselves. So these investor sessions, it's happening globally, plus right down to many of the solutions that we delivered, and that we've also published internally to also help drive inspiration for the next potential innovators, that see these challenges and see what could come out of it and say, well, okay, I can do that. I have a great idea. I have this problem I believe I can solve. And then that's how everything gets started, right? Here's a couple of projects I want to share with you that are really close to my heart, particularly around sustainability. And the first one there we'll call Zero Pack. So it's being piloted here in Switzerland, and there is a lot of interest outside. But Zero Pack is providing Nestlé products in bulk packaging. So you would bring your own bulk container. You saw this in the video, in the teaser video, that you can refill the products that are on the stand to a measured quantity, and you only pay for that quantity. It doesn't itself feel so radical, but when you actually consider that the Nestlé's big mantras around quality and safety of our products, when we're making food and we've been doing so for over 150 years, a big reason why we're still here is because we treat the safety of our employees and the quality of our products with the almost highest regard. It does mean sometimes then we're perceived as being overly conservative and slow, because we put so much focus around that safety. At the end, we see it's a huge responsibility that we're making food that you as a consumer eat, and that affects you, of course, physically, and that's, it's a big responsibility we put on ourselves. So that's why it takes so seriously. And when you talk about, you say, Nick, the bulk packaging, well, I've seen in bio shops for many years. What's different about this? What's different here is we talk about the products being packaged at our factory site in those very high standard industry class quality safety regulatory areas, and being packaged in such a way, and the product being airtight, and so that only when you do go there and you release the amount that you need, also not damaging or corrupting the products that the next person will come along and consume as well. Okay, so typically in the bulk solutions you may have seen elsewhere in past years, it's, people would get the big packaging, the shop would buy the big quantity bulk, open it up, fill in the big container, close, and then you go there and maybe you scoop yourself, right, the amount of food you like. This is about being able to provide that quality product. So that if you open up a jar of coffee, it doesn't taste, smell the same when you open it up than when you do 3 months later. So how do you maintain that quality of the product and provide that kind of service that, of course, from a sustainability perspective, we are making less packaging and putting out there in the environment while still serving the consumer need. And the last one, water sense. So this one an idea that initially came out saying, how can we help farmers, today's particularly smallhold farmers, through digital technology to be more efficient. That was what the challenge was around. And this idea, which made it through and we piloted in Pakistan, is these custom water sensors, which actually off-the-shelf components, be it the Raspberry Pi, be it even the tube that you can, it's just a regular tube you can buy from any shop and building shop in most countries around the world, using the LoRa network. And the idea is that you stick these sensors in your field and you can save water through being able to monitor, oh, there's already enough water in the soil today. I do not need to turn the tap on and release more water into my farm to irrigate my crops. So it helps you better manage as a smallhold farmer these your water usage, which of course is better for the environment, and it's also more economical for them. Until this solution, this is, by the way, we open sourced this and we worked with a couple of university professors to bring it to life in the EU Commission. The cheapest solution equivalent that we could find on the market was about $2,000 in sold out to Australia. And we managed to bring this to life for about $200 a piece. And this is now being worked on in Pakistan with the local university as well, because we learned through the pilot that our MVP, as good as it was, and you can see there, how much water from only 2.5 acres of a farm is not so big, but we might save 12% of water. And I know 487,000 liters. In my world, that sounds like it's a lot of water to have saved. But at the same time, the additional benefit is actually we got a lot more crop out of it, 16% more crop, which was then used. Maize we feed typically to our dairy cows. And so it's a huge win-win, right? So not only have you saved water, the smallhold farmer has saved money, but actually they even made more money because they've managed to make more crop, which has been able to better feed the cows, make more milk gets sold into the value chain, and so on. It's a complete win-win. In both these cases, I mentioned about the water sensor was done with an open source project. And with the first one, ZeroPack, we went and found a startup partner called Miwa. They're in, if I remember, I think it's Czech Republic they came from, to bring this to life and do it quickly. So great area of innovation. We'd want to do a lot more of projects like these, of course, and with the kind of partnerships which can vary, as you can see, to bring such to life. But what's next? Okay, so here's an example where not only did we go hunting for those startups like we normally do through our process, but we only have typically 8 weeks to do so, and we are at the same time of validating a problem, designing a solution, we are looking for existing startups companies through our network that already have that existing solution that we could converge together. In this example here, we actually went through that process. We had concluded we want to build this ourselves in-house using a lot of the cloud cognitive solutions that we have, and this one's called Onsei, which means wisdom in Japanese, and it's artificial intelligence powered speech analytics for consumer engagement services. So you may have looked at the back of a KitKat packet and you've seen a telephone number and you call up to say, I'm not happy about maybe where I saw this KitKat, what it was, or hopefully you can't say because of any issues he had. But the fact is, we of course to keep on engaging our consumers and to also make sure that with that feedback, we're able to always improve our products and get better and better. We have these consumer engagement services who today receive calls, and you can imagine, again, based on the scale of our business, 1 billion plus products sold per day. Depending where you are in the world, we'll get, if you marry everything up, it's a lot of calls that come in across a whole spectrum of reasons, and that's completely normal. But actually being able to monitor those calls does take, therefore, an incredible amount of effort to post-analyze what was said, was the sentiment of our consumers, and also understand better how we could improve that product or that service to be better next time. And this idea, again, we went through a process. We want to do this in-house, and then we got actually tasked to go outside. So just, you know what, why don't you let's go and see if there's already a startup solution that you say you haven't found one, but why don't you try a different way? Instead of you going hunting, why don't you open it up and see who would be interested and who maybe already has a working solution that they could apply into the challenge. So actually the history of the solution was we ran that internal challenge. We had an internal idea across two very different businesses and two different people who otherwise never have any reason to talk. They came together because they had a similar idea in this space, and we actually managed to get them to merge their idea together and do something bigger and bolder. And in the end, we actually went and posted as an open innovation challenge, saying this is what we want to do with customer speech analytics. And actually, the partner we found in the end who applied amongst many others, and we down selected, the best proposition we saw came from Amazon Web Services, and we partnered with them, who did not have a solution live at that stage, but they did have all the working components, and they were on one side said, this is an interesting use case that we want to bring to life. You've got this problem that you want to solve, and this is the proposition that we have to do this together and co-innovate. And this has inspired us now to do this more and do it at scale with external partners. So this is where we are now. So we want to crowdsource with employees and suppliers at scale. Okay, so we are, you see 1, 2, 3. On the first, it's really about we launch a challenge on our InGenius platform, so ingenius.nestlé.com, where suppliers can share their working solutions, or where you can say, you know, I have all the components to make it work. If I work with you within 4 to 12 weeks, I believe we can have a co-created solution that's fit for your needs. And of course, it's in the interest of the supplier, which I say, well, it's a small startup, right to a big multinational. To be honest, I'm not party to one or the other. I look for, is the person or the group that's applying, are they aligned with our culture and values? And of course, can they deliver the solution? Do we believe that they can deliver the solution? And what's the track record in doing so? And that's one of several criteria to select the right partner to bring this to life. But here you see, once the solutions come in, or the applications come in, then we actually will look to share those shortlisted applications from the product owner. So that's normally my team with whoever's raised that challenge. We'll work together to actually get and we say, listen, we've had 200 applications. These 10, they're the ones that look really most promising. Let's now push that back out to the employee crowd and say, what do you think? Do you like the solution similar to how they propose it? And what's your reservations? What's the risks you see? And what's the opportunity of working with this one versus this one? So you see, again, we're trying to merge internal innovation, intrapreneurship with entrepreneurship, right? And you see that what's it give us? It gives us, exposes employees to novel supply concepts. So that's a win for employees. We, again, leverage our social creativity among the employees to take, hey, these solutions have come through suppliers. Not only why do we think certain suppliers, startups or big or otherwise, are better suited to solving this problem based on what they're telling us versus another, but then it may be inspiring to say, well, that's what they're proposing. Well, I can imagine if we go back to them and say, hey, could you do this and this and this on top? and see what they say. That could be an interesting build on the solution that's already existing, or could be co-created with external. And finally, of course, it expands the potential capture of the opportunities across the group. Maybe it may mean that the solution that's been applied, you as a supplier, as a startup that has applied into this challenge, we may not end up going with you, but you've now got exposure potentially to a much bigger crowd of employees who are belonging to different parts of the business, and who may say, well, actually, you may not have gone with them for that purpose, but they sound like they have a really interesting proposition for what I need over here for something else. So it's something that we think there's a definitely mutual gains on both sides, which then just kind of wraps up. We see that visibility in marketing in terms of a novel and collaborative way of solving problems, particularly sustainability being a big one for us. You may have seen the investment we're making there globally. We're talking about really getting that diverse audience, both external and internal, to work together in this way, really increase the chance of some creative and disruptive solutions. You just heard me say social collaboration equals acceleration. The more we can connect innovators, internal and external, in this way, and leveraging mutual expertise, we can get to market faster, right? We can solve those problems faster. And especially when it comes to, again, I'm going to size about sustainability, climate change, time is of the essence, right? And we definitely see, feel the urgency, and we want to work with partners that can help bring solutions to life just there. And of course, finally, let's expose ourselves to new trends and offerings at scale, but also expose yourselves as potential suppliers, looking at what we do and say, well, that's really interesting. That's a really interesting use case. Now let me explore this further in my own proposition and maybe build my own product out of it as well. Even if you don't end up working with us directly, you get to see the kind of use cases that companies like ours do have. And that's it. Over to you for any questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Nick. Great presentation. If you can stop the sharing. Okay, great, perfect. So thank you also our audience. And we have some different questions for you. And they ask, the first one is, do you think that any corporations, no matter how big it is, could foster entrepreneurship or requires to have special values inside the company? This is the first one.
Yep. Yes. So yes and no. So yes, I believe that any company regardless of the size, and I've been talking to some companies of even 50, 100 employees recently, who are embarking themselves on a similar entrepreneurship program, or equally have done great work in some venture building already today, or external facing innovation that actually I think in some aspects has gone beyond what we've been able to do. But now they're trying to then work backwards and engage the employee base, and then also trying to to merge them in the way that we've shown examples we have done, but then the way we want to go further. So size for me isn't the problem. The culture is, and by the end, the culture is about people. So if you have the CEO who really strongly believes in innovation, employee innovation, as something fundamental to the success of the company, into its mantra, its reason for being, and then is able to convince his leadership, that already is a huge step. In the end, in talking about the people that you currently have, giving them that opportunity like we did, and also giving them that voice and the support required to make it happen. There's no point saying, great, by the way, we're not going to give you any more time, not going to maybe give you any more money out of it in whatever way out of the process. You're going to have to do this completely by yourself. Well, then, of course, that's not going to happen. So the culture, which is on one side, these practical aspects, it's the belief that you as an employee do have a voice to make a difference. But then, that you do have that, and that you feel empowered to actually contribute in this way. And that very much fundamentally starts from the top, but it's everyone's responsibility below, right? And of course, as much as Nestlé, for those who have been in the company for many years, you would argue as well that given even our structure, when we talk about, in small teams, you can get together, you can do a lot as a small team in Nestlé. It's once you start stepping onto people's territories that the things get a little bit more controversial. But we've proven that, if you do, the more you engage with people, and that's why, again, by doing the public crowdsourcing, if someone does say, hey, that's my area, you say, great, you want to work with me, can we work together to solve this? That, you see, has a cultural change as well. So it's where it's the base for the culture, but then also how do you can augment it and you can shape it, of course, with putting the right people and the right organizations and running a program similar, I'm going to say, but within your own context in your company as well.
Okay, interesting, great, thanks. Good answer. And then we have another one that is, how does a big company manage the behavior of the employees to get them involved in new projects? How do you do it?
Yes, very good question. So we, I think one of the parts we start off really well with, we saw that original drawing with the dragons then, is already given them something to aim towards, right? So there is this aspect that you see, and it's not for everybody as a motivator, but for people to see these videos of their peers and colleagues going there and pitching in a scenario which maybe they've never been used to is a big motivator itself. And so the behavior of of just simply saying, okay, I want to take that step and submit my idea could be strongly motivated by having seen that investor round activity which someone not necessarily has been involved in. And then in terms of throughout the process is, and very much like in my case about walking the talk. So behavior also is tied to based on what you see. And when they see the people like myself, my team, and the network of similar inspired people in a company that really believes in this, believes in intrapreneurship, believes in employees having a voice, but then exercising that voice. And so when submit ideas that actually, I'm one of the first out of those 7,000 ideas, I think I've probably voted and commented either way, right, positive and negatively, on at least 50, 60% of them over the years, because I monitor and I help people to make their ideas better. And if people see that, hey, I've submitted my idea and it may not be the best one, and it's, and to be frank, we know in most cases 8 out of 10 are not the ones that we're seeking. But if they see that the likes of someone like myself or my team or other people around the world are saying, hey, I like the problem you're trying to solve, but do you think your idea is missing this, this, and this? And again, that conversation is very public. Then again, it drives the behavior to say, wow, people here really believe in collaborating together, and that gives them motivation to go on through the process. So I think those elements together, with in addition to these time-boxed windows that we have, the 8 weeks incubation, the 4 weeks challenge, that also kind of gives a sense of there's a start and a finish. And okay, if my idea didn't make it through in this challenge, first of all, it's okay. I know there's another one that most likely is going to come up I can engage in, or you know what, I have my answer and yes or no, and I can carry on and move on to the stuff as well. So that all helps to motivate people and channel them and focus what they do. And I guess just say one final thing in addition to what we've seen learned through the process is also about giving expertise on the ground as well. So having these innovation champions who have had design thinking training and they're certified coaches, that they can be a go-to person. So if you're in a factory in Zimbabwe, for example, and you've come across it as a challenge that's been run, well, okay, it's really interesting, but I've never done this before and I don't know who to speak to. And this is a way you go to the person that you can trust and you say, hey, how do I get started? And they know what to do and they help them and they guide them through it and even help them draft out their idea, articulate their thoughts. It's not natural to everyone to do this, and they need help along the way. But again, where they see help in all these different ways that I've demonstrated today, that has that behavioral impact to say, this is something really important that I want to be part of.
Great. I think at the end it's an opportunity also for the employee.
Absolutely.
It's great. So one more time, thank you, Nick, to stay here with us to share the knowledge. And we hope that at the end of this period of COVID, we can share more sessions in physical. Okay?
Yes. Now to go back to Barcelona and see you in person. Absolutely, Joanna.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
In a few days, weeks, it's going to be the content online in our website, and also we will share it in our social media platforms. Okay.
Fantastic.
So thank you one more time.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.